It's me! Welcome back to Creative Chaos, where we try to save money doing creative things, and sometimes it's chaos. Today's video is an exciting one because it's finally time for March Madness. Woo! March Madness! So this is Selection Sunday, so welcome, and we're gonna get started, and I'll go through what we've got going on for March Madness this coming 2 weeks. So exciting. So let me zoom you in and we'll get started. Okay, so for March Madness, I decided to do a digital savings challenge. So you're gonna just zoom in on the rules here. So this is for the women's tournament. We're gonna be saving some money with this, and because it is a savings challenge, I'm going to be doing it digitally. That way I don't have to take money out of the bank and then put it back in the bank and then reallocate it somewhere. I just go straight from the account into a different account, and we save money that way, either on debt or saving for a vacation or any of that. So the rules are, you select your choice each round. If you choose correctly, you save $2, and if you choose incorrectly, you save $3. And then we have some bonuses here. So if a team wins with a score over 80 points, save $5. If an upset occurs, save $5. If a game goes to overtime, you're going to save $10. And if an individual player scores over 35 points, then you save $20. And then our last rules here, it's during the Elite 8, Final 4, and Championship games, the winning score is saved. So I'll be doing all the rounds, so first 4, first round, second round, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4, and Championship. And this is just for the women's tournament. I have a different card for the men's tournament. But since it's Selection Sunday, we can finally make our picks. So for the first 4, we have High Point. I'm going to zoom in really, really far. Boom. Let's see if this will work for me. Quack, 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 quack. I'm going to be using the blue today because that's for the women's. The women's is blue. And so we have, our first one is High Point. Ooh, actually, we need to do the ones that come first. So the first day is UC San Diego versus Southern U. And then on the same day, we have Iowa State versus Princeton. Ooh, exciting. Oh, I'm spelling Princeton. Come on now. Princeton. And then we have High Point. Never heard of them before, and William and Mary. And our last first 4 is Columbia versus Washington. Cool. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna circle my choice, and then whichever one, if we choose correctly, if they're the winner, then we save $2. If we choose incorrectly, then we save $3. So I'm just gonna look up some stats real quick and then I'll be right back. Okay, so UC San Diego versus Southern U. I think I'm gonna go for UC San Diego. Hopefully I'm right, if not, oh well. Iowa State versus Princeton. It seems like those ones are pretty evenly matched. I think I will go with Iowa State. Don't like that. High Point versus William and Mary. High Point seems to have the better streak, wins versus losses. But William and Mary I'm more familiar with. But I think I would choose High Point. And then Columbia versus Washington. Ooh, I'm kind of biased towards Washington, but I think Columbia has the better record. Ooh, what should we choose? It's always a toss-up. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's choose Washington, just because I'm biased towards it. So that's how it goes. So you're going to write down the two teams that are playing. You circle whichever one you want. And if you choose correctly, and then you save $2. If you choose incorrectly, you save $3. And since we have the rest of the scorecard, we're going to fill that out and then choose. So the first one is East. So we have Spokane and Birmingham. So I guess we'll cross that out. We'll just go for Spokane. So the scorecard is going to be for Spokane. And UCLA seems like they're waiting for one of the first four, so we'll have to come back to that. Next one is Richmond versus Georgia Tech. Why did I write it like that? I guess I'll put the numbers too. So this is team number 1. Richmond is 8 and Georgia Tech is 9. Then we have Ole Miss. I might speed this up, that way we can just get through it. And then Ball State. We have number 5 and number 12. We have Baylor versus Grand Canyon. This is number 4 and number 12. And we have Iowa. Wow, Iowa without Caitlin Clark. Murray State. This is number 11. 11 versus number 6. Then we have Oklahoma versus FGCU, number 14 and number 3. Ooh, wow, Oklahoma State is on the same side. Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State. Number 10 and number 7. And last, UConn versus Arkansas State. Number 15 and number 2. Okay, so that's all for Spokane. And then we'll get to Birmingham. And I'll be right back because I need to charge my battery. Alright, I'm back. Now my battery's all charged, so we're gonna continue on. So I filled out all of my scorecards for the first round, and now I just have to go in and pick. So for the women's one, it seemed like the past couple years that I've been doing the women's one, it seems a little bit more predictable. Like the higher seed usually gets through pretty easily, and then the lower seed kind of just doesn't win. So I'm going to use my red to circle. The only ones that I worry about are the ones where it's like 8 versus 9. So like Richmond versus Virginia Tech, it's really just a toss-up. So I don't know. I think I'm going to choose Georgia Tech for this one. That'll be my upset. For UCLA, we're waiting for the first 4 to get done, and then I'll fill in that one and then circle it later. But I think UCLA is going to go pretty easily, so I don't know, maybe I'll just circle it now. And if it's an upset, oh well. Ole Miss versus Ball State, I'm going to go with Ole Miss. Baylor versus Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon's supposed to be really good at basketball, both on the men's and women's side, so who knows. But I think I might have to pick Baylor for this one. And then we'll go to the next one. Florida State versus George Mason. I'm going to choose Florida State. LSU versus SDSU. That's San Diego State. I think LSU. Harvard versus Michigan State. That's also a tough one because I know Harvard's good at basketball. But so is Michigan State. Maybe I'll just stay the course and go with a higher seed. So Michigan State. And then NC State versus Vermont. I'm going to go with NC State. Go to the next one. USC versus UNC Greensboro. Sadly, I'm going to have to go with USC. California versus Mississippi State. See, the 8 versus 9, it's always a toss-up with that one. I think I'll go for Cal. Kansas State versus Fairfield. Maybe I'll do Kansas State. Kentucky versus Liberty. I know Kentucky's pretty good, so I'll pick Kentucky. And then we have Iowa versus Murray State. I think I'll go with them anyway. And then Oklahoma versus FGCU. We'll go with Oklahoma since they're higher ranked. Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State. As much as I would want Oklahoma and Oklahoma State to meet at some point, I think I'll choose the upset, South Dakota State. And then UConn versus Arkansas State. We're going to go with UConn. Let's go Paige. And then we're on to Birmingham side. So the first half of the scorecard, the first round, that was all Spokane. And now we're on to Birmingham. Oh, this is supposed to be 16, not 6. Silly me. 16. So South Carolina versus Tennessee Tech. I think South Carolina is still the better team. They are number 1 for sure. Utah versus Indiana. Ooh, see, that's a tough one too. I think I might have to go with Indiana. Alabama versus Green Bay. We're going to go Alabama. Maryland versus Norfolk State. I don't know, should we choose an upset? Or should we just stay the course? Let's go with Maryland. And then we have West Virginia, so they're still waiting. So I might have to come back to that one. North Carolina versus Oregon State. Let's go with North Carolina. Vanderbilt versus Oregon. Ooh, should we take the upset and go with Oregon? Or should we stay with Vanderbilt? Let's go with Oregon, since I didn't choose Oregon State. And Duke, obviously. Texas is number 1. We might as well just choose them now. Illinois versus Creighton. Ooh. See, I don't know, because I like Illinois, but I also like Creighton. They're both really good teams. Let's stay the course, Illinois. Tennessee versus South Florida. Let's go Tennessee. Ohio State versus Montana State. Maybe let's go Ohio State because they're number 4, so I think they have a better chance of winning. Michigan, this is University of Michigan. I might have to just come back to that one because they're number 6 at the moment. They're waiting for the number 11. I'll come back to that one. Notre Dame versus SFA. Go Notre Dame. Louisville versus Nebraska. See, this is a good matchup too. I'm going to go with the upset, Nebraska, and then TCU. So that's it for my women's one. And so when we get to the games themselves, I'll be filling all of this in. And then if there's any bonuses, I'll get to the bonuses. I'll add that in. And then when we get to the second round, then I'll put in all the teams again. And then I'll have to change this from East to Spokane and Birmingham. All right. So that's the women's side. And then we're going to scroll down to the men's side. So for the men's, it's the same thing, but the only 2 that I changed was if a team scores over 85 points, then they will save $5. So I think the women's one I did 80 points. For the men, I'm doing 85. And then if an individual player scores 30 points, save $20. So for the women, I did 35. So the men is 30. And then same thing, Elite 8, Final 4, and Championship game, the winning score is saved. So, to our first 4, Alabama State versus St. Francis U. I have not watched any of these teams, which is kind of sad because I love basketball. But I think I'm going to go with St. Francis U. Texas versus Xavier. I can't believe these 2 teams have to play in. This was shocking to me, seeing this, but I'm going to go Xavier. American versus Mount St. Mary. I think Mount St. Mary. And this one was shocking too. I can't believe North Carolina has to play into this tournament versus SDSU. I'm going to go with North Carolina. Sorry, San Diego. All right, on to the first round. Obviously, we're going to go Duke because this might be their year, guys. Might be their year. Mississippi State versus Baylor. I'm going to have to go for the upset with that one. Oregon versus Liberty. We're going to go Oregon. Arizona versus Akron. I'm going to go Arizona. And we'll go to the next one. So we have BYU versus VCU. BYU. Wisconsin versus Montana. Let's go Wisconsin. St. Mary's versus Vanderbilt. I know both of these teams are so good. Maybe I'll go for the upset. I'll go Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt for the upset. Alabama, we're going to choose Alabama. Sorry, Robert Morris. Auburn, got to choose Auburn. Even though we haven't filled out the other spot yet, it's got to be Auburn. Louisville versus Creighton. Again, two really good teams. Let's go Creighton. Let's go for the upset. Michigan versus UCSD. Let's go Michigan. Texas A&M versus Yale. Let's go for the upset. That'd be cool in the first round. Number 13 upsets. Number 4. Ole Miss. I'll have to come back to that one because it's kind of close. Then we have Iowa State versus Lipscomb. We're going to go Iowa State. Marquette versus New Mexico. I'm going to stick with Marquette. Got to. Michigan State versus Bryant. We're going to go Michigan State. And then we have the Midwest side. Houston versus SIU. Edwardsville. Sorry. Gotta pick Houston. Ooh, Gonzaga versus Georgia. Two Bulldogs against each other. I just realized that. We're going to go Gonzaga. Let's go Gonzaga. Clemson versus McNeese. Let's go Clemson. Purdue versus High Point. I'm going to go Purdue because they made it pretty far last year. Illinois. See, Illinois I'm also going to have to wait. Because Illinois would be either Texas or Xavier. And then I don't know how that matchup would be. It's always a hard one. So I'll come back to that one. Kentucky versus Troy. I'm going to stick with Kentucky. Even though I know Troy is good, they could probably do an upset, but I'm going to stick with Kentucky. UCLA, ooh, versus Utah State. Ooh. I know it might be an upset, but I'm going to choose UCLA. Tennessee versus Wofford. I'm going to go Tennessee. And we'll go to the west. Florida versus Norfolk State. Gonna go Florida. UConn, Oklahoma. Oh, I gotta go UConn. They made it very far last year, so hopefully they make it far this year. Memphis versus Colorado State. Should we do an upset? Let's go Colorado State. Maryland versus Grand Canyon. Maybe I'll go Maryland. I know Grand Canyon's supposed to be good at basketball, but maybe not this year. Who knows? I could be wrong. And then we have Missouri versus Drake. I think I'm going to go Missouri. Missouri. Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. I'm going to go Texas Tech. Kansas versus Arkansas. See, that's a good one too. 7, 10, and 8 and 9 are probably the toughest ones. Let's go Kansas. And St. John's and Omaha. Alright, St. John, you get the last pick. So that's how we're going to do it. We've made our picks for the men's and women's bracket. And so I'm going to watch all the games and tally my score. And then when we check in for our second round, I'll show you what my scorecard looks like, whether I got it correct or incorrect, and if I got any bonuses. I'm so excited. Are you guys excited? Do you have a team that you're really rooting for? Are you an alumni of any of these schools? Did you play basketball? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to know if you're doing a bracket this year, if you're doing something similar to this. And yeah, if you want to follow along, just keep on watching, and you can save how I save, or you can come up with your own rules and bonuses, and you can save along with me. Or you can just do a bracket. That's fine too. Let me know. Alrighty. See you in the next one. See you for the second round. Okay, bye-bye.